Happy Monday. I'm so happy to be here with you guys. I'm so happy to talk to y'all about this today. I feel like I've gotten so much fun feedback and questions from y'all. So I feel like there's so much good stuff for us to dive into today. So excited to share this and give you different perspective there. I think like knowing this is a possibility in our businesses is so valuable. It doesn't mean most people will want to even take this. Take it, i.e., in terms of selling. But I think knowing you can, knowing what the process might look like is wildly useful. So just here to share, be transparent, talk about um, our experience of it, talk about some of the whys behind it, all of that kind of stuff. I want to give as much as I can and share as much as I can around this because I feel like it's really, really valuable for us to we can do these things. So if you guys have specific questions that you didn't already send to me or that you know that you'd really love to have me answer, let me know. And I'm super, super happy to be as open as I possibly can. So feel free to just put that in the comment. And what else did I want to tell you? Oh, the giveaway for today. So as always, we do a giveaway to say thank you for being here and spending time with us. And today's giveaway is a $100 gift card. So if you're here, thanks for being here. And any comment at all, hi, yay, question, whatever, is entered to win a $100 gift card. Hey guys, hey Michelle, hi. Had to lead with an important question first. Oh, did we get any tips about the off the shoulder cardi? Okay, literally no, but I also do think unbuttoning one more button helped. And also what someone did say to me is they were like, the angle is what's making it look so weird. They were like, you're holding it like this. So it looks super weird, which is how I was holding my phone. But like this actually makes it look better. So it might have just been the angle. I don't know. I didn't know if they were just being nice or if that was really it, but I actually think that could have been it. There's this one girl I follow on TikTok who just, she's so cute and she does this all the time. So I was like, I'm doing that today. And I don't know. It's not quite as cute as her, but we'll get there. Hi, Sarah. Okay. So talking all things sale. So I'll just kind of share like the personal aspect of it, I guess. On the front end, I'll share like what kind of led to us deciding to do this, some specifics around that. And we'll go from there. So if y'all don't know, Jen had Datable under a different business called the Nimble Co. For a few years before I joined. So I joined in 2022. Is that right? No, 2021. And uh yeah, 2021. Sorry, I was trying to think about that. Because I joined when I was like 6 months old. And that's when it became Datable. So we've been doing this together for a few years now. Michelle said I can buy the angle thing that have broad shoulders that carry the cardigan better. Oh, interesting. When I try to do the off the shoulder cardigan slips off my shoulders because that could be Michelle. It's like a shape thing. That actually makes sense. Kristen said, sure, you'll get to lots of details, but curious if you have legal support or consultancy around valuation and terms. Yeah, we can get into that for sure. So Jen and I have been doing this together. And we kind of were coming to a point where it was like, if we want to take this further, we either were going to have to create a much, much, much more significant ad spend for our funnel and like really, really, really double down on that and put like a lot more time and energy into like managing that part of the process. And or we really for a long time had wanted to consider adding like a done for you element to Datable. But the truth is, to build out an agency like that of like done for you data and done for you dashboards, we've tested a couple offers and we have done some like really high level behind the scenes builds and stuff. It is significant. Like the time like investment in like doing that is really real. And Jen and I both have other things we're like incredibly committed to. A Lit Up Life is always, always going to be my first baby. I was clear about that when I joined Jen, etc. I know a lot of you don't know the specifics, but Jen has like the most badass adult high level job ever. She like never really speaks about it too much or shares what it is for those reasons, I suppose. But she's like a big girl, if you know what I mean. Um, and so like we've talked about playing with different ways to do that. And we got asked for it a lot. And we just kind of were like, either we both have to like pull back on other stuff we're doing and give it to this, or we have to be realistic about like, okay, the business is just going to stay here. And the truth is, in most cases, selling a business feels so adult. It does feel, it felt very adult, Michelle. I will be honest with you. Hey, Brittany. So we kind of were sitting with that for a little bit, but the truth is, in a lot of businesses, if you're like, okay, status quo, we're going to keep it here. We're just going to bring in this money, all is well, da, da, da. Like you can coast for a period of time, but if your like long-term plan is coast, we all know how that goes. Like the business typically goes backward, not forward. And so that was a concern that we kind of had of like, okay, we're like really happy with the business. And like, say we don't want to get into the like, we're spending 30K a month on ads range. Say we don't want to get into the done for you builds. Can we keep it here? And like we both like highly considered that because it's Datable was a very successful business by all intents and purposes in that way. Obviously made easy by the data piece of it to a certain extent, but what I have really learned about myself in this process that I find to be really interesting is I am such a one focus person. Like even in a lit up life, I like want one offer. Like I find it very hard to have a lot of split focus and split energy. And I think Jen was kind of starting to feel like that a bit too. Like it was just like Datable is so easy to run in the sense that it's like course and funnel based and we go off data, but it's still just like always this other thing living there. So we were kind of both on this place of like, this could probably be really good for a while. We could probably wait till both of us have a little more energy freed up. And what was the hardest for us is we both just feel so passionately about data and about getting into the hands of women. So it felt like this almost like thing we were attached to in that way too. We've talked a lot about how like we really never intended to like build this business or build a course-based business, but like we just believe in this so much. So after a couple conversations, we were like, okay, maybe we should just consider a sale. Like, what would it be like to just lightly float that? And the reason we kind of thought that is because it's much, much, much better. Here's a lesson. It's much, much, much better to sell a business when it's at a good place than when it's at a really bad place, right? So we could see like, hey, if we don't start moving in another direction, or if we don't start really, really scaling, or if we don't start like making other moves, the truth is like this could go backward, not forward. And do we really want to try to sell from that state? No, right? So we were kind of like, if we're gonna think about doing something else, if we're gonna think about exiting, we probably would want to do it on the sooner end rather than the later end. It's more of like hey, we're realizing like we probably need to make a shift kind of first opportunity versus a last ditch effort. The other thing that I think is really relevant to say here is what has changed so much in our space is personal brand is like everything, like that personal element, that connection, how we market, how we talk about ourselves has changed so drastically since Jen and I started in 2021. And how we've mostly built Datable, we've done, just to like share this because I actually think it's helpful to know. We've definitely done ads. But what has been most successful for us is we've had really, really strong affiliate partnerships. We're part of a lot of really big membership sites where they get like a small product from us and then are led into our bigger offer suite and funnel. We have really, really strong affiliates. So we've done so much of this through these like partnerships, through being part of these really big memberships, et cetera, et cetera. And so we were kind of lucky in the sense that that did a lot for us. But the truth is like, also, if we wanted to keep filling the funnel beyond all of these amazing partnerships we had, and honestly warming people up that were in the funnel in the way that our industry is calling for now, we really needed to shift Datable into like a bit of a more like personally connected brand. And the truth is, that was also a decision point for the sale, because if we were going to go in that direction, it would have made it harder to sell down the road. Like, one of the things that made Datable easy to sell is that the entire brand wasn't so Jen and Lacey focused that it would be like worthless or impossible to hand off to someone else. So that was part of it too. It was like, hey, we either want to start leaning in this direction from a marketing perspective, or we want to not, like, really intentionally and ultimately, like, move toward the potential of a sale. Something that I wanted to share on this too, and obviously if y'all have questions as I'm going through this, let me know, but I'm just trying to almost like take you through the thought process. But something else that I really wanted to share is when I first started Datable back in 2021, one of my good friends, I don't know if y'all know her, Adrienne Dorson, her business is called Run Like Clockwork. And what she said to me at the time that always really stuck with me, and that I'm so, so grateful to her for, is she was like, do not build Datable off your own brand. Like, be really, really careful. Like, you want it to be its own business, its own brand, have its own traffic sources, all of that kind of stuff. So you'll probably notice I really have never promoted Datable a ton out of Lit Up Life. I've sent an email here or there. I've done a reel here or there. I obviously always talk about data because it's relevant to me. Jen and I have done live streams like maybe every other month or so, but I've always really, really kept them separate. And I'm so grateful for Adrienne for giving me that advice early on, because it made it so much easier. Like, these have always felt like very distinct businesses. It never felt like Datable was an arm of a Lit Up Life or whatever. A Lit Up Life was the source of leads for Datable. And that has just been so intentional. And I also think, again, that's what made it easier to sell, because it was like, hey, we already have all these partnerships. We have all these things going for us that are so specific to Datable. They weren't from a Lit Up Life. And so I just share that too, because I think it would have been the easiest route I could have possibly taken with the entire business trajectory. Was, I have a really big engaged audience at a Lit Up Life. To funnel them to Datable constantly would have made us more money. It would have made more sense. But the fact that I didn't do that is one of the reasons we were able to sell. It's one of the reasons we've been able to keep it so separate. It's one of the reasons it worked so well in this sense. And so I just share all that to say, like, not that you have to like do that if you want to sell, but if you are someone that's truly thinking about that, it is helpful to think, like, what is the bigger, broader picture with this? Like, is the sale of this entirely dependent on you being on Instagram promoting it every day or not? Because that there really is a difference there in terms of what makes that viable or what people are interested in from a sales standpoint there. So we were kind of getting to this point. We decided, let's just lightly float some stuff, see what happens. And maybe something comes of that, maybe not, maybe we get a broker. So we kind of likely floated to a couple people that we had relationships with. Trying to think of how transparent I can be here. We did not feel great about selling to a man, is just how I'm going to be open. One of the things we were so proud of at Datable, hey Emma, hey Elisa. One of the things we were so proud of at Datable is that it was a woman-owned and operated data business. I feel like that is more rare in our space. And we would always talk about like using the tools of bro marketers without having to be one. And so floating a couple conversations, taking them a little bit farther and being like, oh, like that just does not align to our value set. That just feels bad to us. Was real. And we had to kind of like pay attention to that. Um, and then we floated like one of the three people that we kind of, put this out there to was the current owner, Carrie. And it's just one of those like serendipitous things. Like it was so fucking meant to be. It's like kind of crazy. Like I was thinking like, okay, we're probably going to have to like look for a broker or move into that stage. Jen had actually sold a business before and had a really successful sale under her belt that was through a broker. And so she was really familiar with that process. And so we felt comfortable, like if we needed to go in that direction, we would explore it. But we ended up not needing to. Carrie was very excited and very like ready for it, open to it. Like again, it was just so serendipitous. So Carrie is actually, she was one of like the very first students in Measure and Maximize. Like it was just so amazing. And so much of what we felt like we couldn't do more of, like really pour more in, make it more of a personal brand, do more of those done for you builds. Like that's exactly what Carrie can do and has been doing. And she also really wanted to take care of our current students. She really wanted to continue to pour into them in the way that we have been. And that was so amazing for us. And so we actually did all of this without a broker, which was really cool because obviously they take a percentage. Just to keep it real. And it takes a whole fucking lot longer because there's so much more like due diligence, there's so much more back and forth, et cetera, et cetera. And so it was really just us and her going back and forth. I mean, certainly we had like legal support and contracts and things like that, but like ultimately, like there wasn't someone else dictating the sale. Oh my, she was the first student. I just love that. Yeah. She wasn't like the very first, but like in that first round of students, which is so fucking cool. And she just filled like every gap, in terms of like, well, we really want someone that'll take care of our students. We really want someone that can do builds in a way that we can't. We really want someone that and it's like check, 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 check. Like it almost felt, I'm not like a person that ever gets too invested in like, oh, it's obviously too good to be true, but it almost felt like that for a little bit. I was like, I don't know, this seems like so perfect. It's weird. And so, I just keep hearing it was rare. I was there in my head. That's how it felt. Yes. Like it was just like, what? Um, and so Carrie is in Canada. And so oddly enough, it was a much simpler sale. Because we like weren't transferring certain things like bank accounts or whatever, or like there really wasn't as much of an issue with like trademark stuff, that kind of thing. We just had a lot of like written agreements and contracts like set up to protect all of us on both ends. We had a lot of like, back and forth discussions, that kind of thing. But ultimately, like it was so easy. um, I I just feel like it was what like truly so serendipitous. It was kind of crazy. There was some, back and forth negotiating as there always should be in a sale process like this. And one of the other like serendipitous and cool things that happened is like obviously we're part of that process. And so I was at Disney with Bennett and Kenny when Jen texted me and was like, here's the like, here it is, here's the final offer. Are we gonna do this? And I was like, I'm in. Like, what do you want to do? What do you think? And she was like, I'm going to sit with this for like an hour or something. And then she was like, I'm in, like, let's do it. And so we like kind of officially decided then, and it just felt like, just so meant to be. And like, so many of the things that we had done really intentionally, but also like, not like here's what I want to say. We had not always been building Datable to make a sale. Like Jen and I weren't like, okay, this business is one that we're building to sell. Here's what we're going to do. Quite honestly, if we were, we probably would have done other things differently too. But like there are so many things that just set up. Like one, keeping the personal branding really separate. Two, keeping a lit up life really separate. Three, having such pristine data. Like obviously when you're thinking about a sale, you need to share so much information with the person who's considering buying. That would be true whether you were just doing it like we did or whether you were working with a broker or not. Like you have to give them everything, access to all the information they could possibly ever want. The fact that we had such an easy way to do that and such an easy way to share data and such an easy like ability to pull any answer to any question to share really openly, really transparently was so cool because it made the process so much easier and so much more seamless. Like it never seemed like we were trying to hide something or not give something or whatever. We were just like, here, we have it all. Which was like so amazing. Um, and just the fact that like again, was all that to sell? No. Did all that really help the sale? 1000%. Like I'm so grateful for so many of the decisions that we made, how they happened, how it worked out to get us to this point. What else do I want to say? I wrote down some like questions here. Let me just look. If y'all have questions too, let me know. Yeah, I feel like one of the things I really want to talk about for a second is like how much you have to see what you're building in your business as an asset. Like the asset of your list, the asset of your IP, the asset of your program and how long that took you to build, like your community, all of that, right? Like all of this is an asset that you have built and own in your business. Yes, it looks different than being like, we have X inventory on a shelf, but it's really not that different. Um, like even if you think about, I'm not saying this is how you value a business, just so we're clear, but just for the purposes of this, like even if you think about like, okay, we have X amount of people on our list, and if someone wanted to go run ads to get that many people um on their own list, how much would that cost them? You know, just like just think about it like that. If you have 10,000 people on an email list or something, right? And say it costs $5 a lead, is it worth it to somebody to pay 50K for that? Like, again, I'm not saying that is like the exact way that you value a business, but I'm just saying, like, in your mind, thinking of these things as assets is so incredible and so important because ultimately, like, you can use and leverage that. You can sell that. You can really build with that in mind, even if you don't want to sell for years potentially, right? But seeing it as that, I think is so valuable. And I think like that's kind of how Jen and I treated it, where we're like, we have a really good asset. We don't want to run that asset out or into the ground if that's how it goes. And I think so many people do that with their business. If they come to that point where it's like, hey, it's going to take this and we don't necessarily want to give this, then sometimes they just let it peter out and it's like not worth anything at the end versus being like, hey, we have so much that we have created and built and poured into, and it is at such a good place to be able to hand it off from there, sell from there is such an amazing opportunity. Nikki said, how long was the process from start to close? We moved really quickly. I would say it was a month, maybe. That even might be long. Probably a month. We moved really fast. That would definitely not be the case. I think if we were in like a broker situation. But because we had so much less red tape to move through, it was very quick. Though I will say, I give Jen and Carrie a lot of credit because they did so much fucking work in that time to make it happen, but it was shockingly fast. They worked so quickly though. My head was spinning and I wasn't even like in, like a lot of the like asset hands off and like really like detailed bits of that. I wasn't even in, to be honest with you. I was in more of like the high level, like what are we all agreeing to, kind of conversations. But yeah, they really like made shit happen. But again, like that's what's so cool about this is like that, like I just think our space is so amazing and so cool. So fast. I think our space is just so amazing and so cool. In terms of like what is possible, what you can make happen, what you forget that somebody else sees like massive value in and wants from you, whether that's like putting out a next offer, selling a course, selling your business, whatever. I think like, I think so many people are like, oh my God, can you even, like, I would never even think to sell a business. And then to be like, and we did it without a broker in a month. Like, I mean, obviously it sounds nuts. But I really feel like it was also just one of those things that was meant to be like that. I was like, I'm like, don't even want to talk about this until it's like done, because it just seemed so perfect how everything worked out. I was like, I do not want to jinx this. Emma said first, love that you sold to another female-owned data business. As you know, I'm another data business girl, and so love the support in the community. And second, how did you come to a value on the selling price? Did you come up with an initial proposal? Did she? Wondering how it came to be. We had an initial number that Jen and I felt comfortable with. And then she proposed a counter offer to that. And we took her first counter offer, just to be transparent. We're part of a lot of the contracts and agreements is like, we're not sharing specifics around details of pricing. Not that y'all are asking, but I'm just telling you if I'm not sharing that, and you're like, why wouldn't you share that? That's why. That's very normal in a business sale, to not share like detailed specifics, obviously. But yeah, so we had our starting figure. She made a counter offer. We accepted. Obviously, we probably could have gone back and forth more, but to the point I was making, it just was like, this is the right thing. Let's roll with it. And yeah, just felt so good. What else was I going to say on that front? I feel like there was something else I wanted to add there. Let me look at my notes again. Let me make sure I answered all the questions y'all asked too. I think that's mostly it. Did you have someone give you a valuation? Were you able to do that in your own careers if that's needed for loan funding? We did it on our own, without getting into too much specifics. I think that in many cases you would absolutely want that to be done by an outside party for like the loan and funding. I think this was a really unique situation in the sense that it was just different. I don't know how else to say it except that because she was Canadian, it just felt different than like in the US business to business sales. So a lot of things were actually easier, which is really weird. Someone had asked me about, like, we never had Datable as an official trademark, and someone asked, like, did that actually hurt your valuation? And it really didn't, because again, she was in Canada, and so that she can just pursue that trademark there, and we've obviously agreed not to pursue it here. So yeah, it was just different. Yeah, Michelle said my takeaway from today's combo is magic happens when you're at Disney. But yes, like typically, like if you were to go through a broker, that's absolutely something that you would do. Yeah, Nikki, exactly. Easier than dealing with SBA USA banking. Shocking. My takeaway, exactly. I was like, oh, wait, this is amazing. But yeah, like I think, had this been a different situation, we absolutely would have needed to do that. And we would have needed to do that through like a broker situation. But like also, just to be really clear, I'm not like dissuading that either. I am saying we happen to have a really fortunate situation, but like it's not like that doesn't mean you shouldn't want to do it or you shouldn't pursue it if like you have a great buyer in the US. We absolutely would have done that. It just like so happened to work out like this. We would have jumped through those hoops happily. And again, having a really beautiful, clear ability with data to show everyone the inside of the business and where it was at is obviously really helpful in terms of that. But yeah, that wasn't like the case here. It just like something that I'll also share. I have now I've been in business for, oh my God, how long have I been in business? 9 years probably at this point, maybe. I would have to do some math, but let's say 9 years. All right. I don't know. I don't know why this is so hard for my brain right now. Almost nine, I guess. 8 or 9. Anyway, and I had Happy Thoughts with Sarah, if you guys remember. So we had a separate business together. We had Happy Thoughts, and Happy Thoughts was almost entirely, well, basically was entirely retreat based. And it had a podcast. And we decided to end Happy Thoughts at the end of 2021. Sorry, because I was pregnant. Yeah, the end of 2021. Because we weren't doing retreats anymore and hadn't been for a really long time. And I was pregnant and like about to have a baby. And I was like, I really like don't want another thing on my plate, especially like I knew I wasn't going to go back to wanting to do retreats with such a young kid. And like our only other product was like a $99 product. Like we obviously weren't, you know, making a mill off that. So we ended that then probably like a year later. So I guess Jen and I started in 2022, which would make sense because Bennett was born in 2022. So anyway, so then Jen and I started less than a year later. And I like was at the point where Bennett was like 6 months, and I think I felt like, oh, okay, like I can do this. I also have been really open about the fact that like my dad had passed a few months earlier, and I feel like I really channeled a lot of my like grief and energy into doing this. But all that to say, I really feel like I am not a person who does super well with split focus. And that is one of like the takeaways that I have had from this is like, I fucking love Datable. I loved working with Jen. Like that has been hard for us, to be honest with you. Like, I'm like going to get emotional, but like, I love working with Jen. She's so fun to work with. She's such a fascinating human. I just don't love having a lot of split focus, no matter how much another business is making me or how fun it is or how worth it is. And like, I'm just saying that not because I think that that should be true for everyone, but because I think I've learned this lesson twice now. And I think it's like, who knows? Maybe I'll learn it a third time. Jen could probably convince me to start another business with her if we're just being honest. But like, honestly, I really do well being like, this is my thing. And I think I've always kept a lit up life as that for sure, for sure. But the weight of having multiple things is real, especially when the other things you have are like a small kid and things like that. And so I'm not sharing that this has to be true for everyone, but I do think it's easy when you watch other people do certain things and you're like, oh, how are they making all of that work? Like I should be able to like be a mom and run multiple businesses and all of these things. And like, honestly, it is possible. Like I did have done both for a lot of years in my business. And also I will tell you, like feeling like I can pour just into a lit up life is really, really valuable for me as a person too. Again, I think this is my personality and makeup. But the point I want to say is like sometimes you will learn these lessons in business a lot. And I think it's like really beautiful to give yourself that, and to be like, oh, I I'm allowed to keep trying things and learning, but I also want to take in that learning. I also want to be like, oh yeah, maybe this is how I'm best suited to operate. And so that's just something I've taken away from this. Like, I'm not saying no, never, but I also like definitely feel like it's really nice to to have one focal point, one like my energy directed in one area. So I don't know, that may be that way forever. That may be that way until Bennett's a little bit older. I have no idea. But what I will tell you is that this is the stuff in business that you have to pay attention to, that you learn about yourself from, that teaches you what feels good and what doesn't, what you want to keep saying yes to and what you don't. I will say, like, sometimes I also love doing things because it really helps me help my clients. Like, I've now run a successful funnel, like evergreen funnel based business. That's really helpful. I've now built and sold a business. That's really helpful for my clients. So like all of this has contributed massively to the value I can bring to my clients, to what I can bring to a Lit Up Life. And like, it felt like the right time to be like, okay, and I'm pulling some of this back into me and a Lit Up Life. Nikki said not to get woo here, but I fully believe something finishes how it starts, energetically speaking. Oh, I love that, Nikki. Something finishes how it starts. Let me think about that. Yeah, I feel that. Like it felt like Datable was exactly what I needed in that stage of grief. Like it brought so much excitement and fun and energized me in such a new way. I needed that magic. And it feels like the ending was magic. So I actually like totally agree with that. It's like really um kind of amazing. And I feel like I'm so proud of the fact that we've like furthered the data conversation in our industry, but I really believe Carrie needs us to pass the baton to her, and someone else needs to take that even further than Jen and I were able to or could, because I think it's so fucking important. I will still talk about data all the time. You won't be able to stop me. But it will just be from a different lens, and it will be through the lens of what I'm doing at a Lit Up Life. Yeah, taking care of a small kid is a business of its own, Jeedra. It is the truth. Um, my only other cue is about your highlighter. Inquiring minds want to know what it is. Michelle. This is a Sarah find. She put it on me when we went to the Taylor Swift concert, and I was like, I'm sorry, what? It is so amazing. It's rare beauty. I'm gonna find it because I don't know exactly but it's like the rare beauty highlighter. It is so good. So good. All credit goes to Sarah, though. That was that was 100% her find. She was like putting on me. I looked in the mirror and I was like, what has happened? Like, this is insane. Couldn't find a good shade match. Yeah, it's so good. But that makes sense. There's not like, I think I only have a few shades. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that feels relevant to tell you. I think the biggest thing that I really would love everyone to take away from this is like kind of what I was saying before, like you want to see your business as an asset and truly treat it like that. Like you really want to go, this is fucking worth something. Like what I have built is meaningful and it matters and is incredible. And like really treat it with that level of reverence. Like even knowing you could sell it, even if you never plan to, even being like, oh, I could sell this bitch for 6 figures or whatever. Even if you've never planned to, is so fucking amazing. And I think it's so helpful to see it like that. I feel like sometimes we miss so much how incredible it is what we've created and what we've built and how much like value that brings. And so if this is just like a confidence shift in hearing this, I feel like that matters so much. The second thing I would give you is like, if you're at all considering this, you can just float conversations. You can just start going down that path. You can just see what your opportunities are. Like you do not have to like when we started this process, we had in no way, shape, or form fully decided like we're selling. Like it wasn't like we were like, okay, we're selling, period. We're done. Bye. Now let's go do it. We were like, we have good options right now. A sale is one of those options that we both feel, excited about. Let's go explore. And I think that's really helpful too. I feel like some people think that it has to be a thing, like you have to be fully decided all of this before you get more information, before you explore. That does not have to be true at all. And sometimes doing that again, like even if you decide not to, like just seeing your business through that lens is so important, but also do it before like you wouldn't want to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, do it when your business is at a good point, where you're like really proud of that. I think that was like one of the things we really had going for us, is that we didn't wait too long. Jen and I had a whole conversation about that. We're like, if we don't keep pouring into this and we wait another 2 years, like, that's not when we're going to sell. It's just not. It's not going to go well. It's not going to, right? So remember that too. And then 3, like, you just never know. Like, this happened in the most magical way. I could have never guessed that this is how this was going to go. And, there it was. So, but that's true with anything in your business. Like, all of these apply to anything. Have that confidence of what you've built. Go explore what you're interested. Don't feel like there's something standing in your way, or that you can't because of whatever. Like, oh, we can't because I'm like, it's just a course. Or we can't because da da da. Or like, do you know what I mean? No, go explore it, figure out what your options are. Yeah, Nikki says so true. It's prime for someone else to take and run with. Exactly. So that is my take. Like, I feel like that's as high level of a take as I can kind of give. If anyone has specific questions, again, happy to like share what I'm like reasonably able to share there. But it's been such a cool process. I feel like I've learned so much through it. I feel like it makes me rethink like how everyone is treating their business in our space, and like what it's worth and what we're building means. Like, I'm just so like reinvigorated by that. So if you need a reminder on that, reach out. I'm happy to give you a TED Talk, pep talk on that. But truly, it's like so cool to be like, this is the new way. Like, the fact that like Jen and I are both moms who have like other big jobs, you could say, built this, created and made what we made out of it, sold it, walked away with what we walked away with. Like, it's so fucking cool. I know I'm talking about myself, so that sounds a little braggy, but I feel like I talk about, when in my brain, I frame it as Jen so much, so I feel like I can say it like that. And because I just can, but it's just so cool. And like what we're able to do in the online space is so fucking amazing. So just remember that in your own business, remember the asset that you're building and how important it is, and like what is possible with it. It's like, there's so much there that most of us aren't thinking about. So hope that was helpful. I thank you guys so much for being here. Nikki said totally, we built ours with that in mind and has made it so much easier. Need a P&L? Sure. Here. Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's so helpful to have that. We're like, oh, you want a dashboard of like every result we've ever had? Here you go. Oh, you want every like detailed P&L ever? Here you go. It's like so easy. Okay. Well, I love you guys. Reminder that season 11 podcast applications are due today. If y'all are interested in being on season 11 of the podcast waitlist, you have that email. And I hope you guys have a beautiful week. Thank you so much for being here with me and talking about this. All right. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.